I wanted to start by talking about good content and how it leads your marketing. I think it's important first that we establish what is good content nowadays because it changed so much. Um, can you explain a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about how media has changed. It started with print and then radio and then TV and then banner ads on the internet and, you know, influencer marketing and social media marketing and like where you reach people. It's sort of a tale as old as time. I always think of it like a parent coming to a high school party. Like, it's like, where are all the kids hanging out? And then the parent comes and kind of ruins the party, and then the kids move, and then the parents follow. And that's what advertising's like. It's like, where is
Mhm.
everyone? Oh, they're watching TV. Great. Let's advertise there. And then it's like, oh, no one really watches that anymore. Where are they? What are they doing? Oh, they're all on Instagram. Cool. Let's advertise there. Oh, they're not doing that anymore. Where are they? Oh, TikTok. Let's advertise there. And it keeps moving. Um, so content is a tale as old as time. Something that interesting that's happening is content used to be the bait and advertising used to be the disruption. So content was like the TV show,
Yeah.
and then the ad was like during commercial breaks. Same thing with like music and ads on the radio. But now there's sort of a mixture where like on Instagram, that's what influencer marketing was. It's like, is it content or is it an ad? And that line is getting blurred a little bit.
Totally.
Um, so I think good content, ideally in its best form now, is something that adds value, doesn't take away, but it's also an advertisement.
Got it.
If that's
What
possible.
what are the different what are the different types of content a brand should create? Like you said, there is content for brand awareness, there is content to sell. Is there anything else?
Yeah, I mean, it depends how you want to split it up. So we talked about brand equity and we talked about direct response marketing and content that could live in either of those buckets. In other words, a video that isn't really meant to move product, but just to tell a story about your brand, or a video that's meant to get someone off their ass right then and there to click a button to buy your product. But then you could categorize content by media type. So like there's written content, there's photography, there's short form video, long form video. You could categorize content by where it's living natively. Is it a podcast? Is it on Instagram? Is it a TV show? So there are lots of ways to describe content and categorize content.
Is there a specific type of content that should be used and created by any type of brand, no matter what they do?
I don't think so. I mean, I think increasingly it's about having a conversation, a not a monologue. So it would be, where are your customers? So you should create content for that place. So if you're speaking to 20-year-old women or 15-year-old women, you should probably be on TikTok. If you're speaking to 46-year-old professionals, you should probably be on LinkedIn. If these professionals tend to drive to work, maybe it's a podcast so they can listen on the way. So thinking about where your customer is and what their customer journey looks like and how you can create content to meet them where they are. I think so there's no one size fits all. It's really just, who are you trying to speak to and what do they find compelling? It's not about what
It
you
seems
want as a brand, it's what they want.
true. It seems though that videos now became the number one type of content that consumers want to see, and that is the easiest to digest, especially as our attention span gets smaller and smaller, and we are marketed with so many different brands, with so many different content. How do you make the most efficient one? If we go with videos, what how do you make a video that really captivates your audience?
Yeah, well, I think there are a couple things to optimize for. One is, what do your consumers want? Like we were
Mhm.
saying. So if your consumer is really busy and on the go all the time, they're commuting and so on, maybe audio. You know, Gary Vaynerchuk talks about how voice is the new TV. Um, so one thing to optimize for is, what do your customers want or need? And then another thing to optimize for is, what are the algorithms favoring? So a big reason why everyone's into video is because the algorithms, like Facebook, wanted more video, probably because it keeps people on the platform for longer. Like a photo someone can look at and leave, video they'll watch for a minute or 4 or 10 minutes. Um, and so if the algorithm is taking videos and showing them to more people than they would photos, then as a brand, you might want to use video to do your storytelling, because when you publish it on Facebook or Instagram, it will reach more people than a photo would. So that's one reason why I think we've seen such a boom of video, is that the huge platforms are just giving preferential treatment to videos over photos.
But like you mentioned last time, I don't know, I think it was Steve Jobs who said people don't know what they want until you give it to them. I
Yep.
think you and me, we both work with brands in the food and beverage industry, for example. And I had a few clients lately who complained a little bit about how now it seems that every food and beverage brand creates the same type of content, and they want something new, they want something unique, because it almost creates confusion um, for the customer to see all these different brands who have the same aesthetic. So how do you create innovative content, and what is the relevance risk balance, because you still, want to attract these people who know the industry, but also you want to stand out?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, if you're seeing a certain type of ad a lot, like a certain image, you're like, I've seen this image like 180 times. That means the image is working, because people wouldn't continue spending money on Facebook ads if it wasn't performing well. If it's
Mm-hmm.
performing well, it's selling product. If it's selling product, then it's a good type of image. And so if you're a brand and you're like, I've seen the same thing everywhere, that's a pretty good indication that that is working right now, and you should do exactly that. It's also a pretty good indication that it's about to not work. It's just supply and demand, right? It's a good indication, just like fashion, just like music, just like anything. When something becomes too popular, it becomes uncool, and then something else becomes cool. So I think it's probably smart for young brands to just follow the trends and be reactive than to try to create something totally new where you could succeed and really be a trendsetter, or you could fail and create something that no one likes. I think it's
Interesting.
probably, as boring as it sounds, a better strategy to look at the 10 trendiest brands, look at what Olipop and look at what Jot and look at what all these brands that are crushing it on Facebook ads. What are they showing a lot in their ads? Replicating that exactly. And then when they change, you change. And just try to be one of the first. You don't have to be the first.
Yeah. Don't you think though that the bigger a brand gets, the harder it is to take those risks, those marketing strategies? We mentioned in our last episodes how those bigger brands like Kellogg's, for example, you have one marketing manager who makes the decision for a couple of years. So you don't want to be put in this position to try something new when you are a small brand, like a two people team. It's really when you can try things out as you
Well,
build your audience.
you're putting your finger on like a pretty big irony, which is that when you're small, have you ever heard the English expression, youth is wasted on the young?
No, what does it mean?
It means like, when you're young, you can fucking do anything and be anyone, and like you have so much freedom, but young people waste it by drinking alcohol and having unprotected sex and running around like crazy people. And they don't use that time to like decide if they want to be a painter or what, like, and by the time you have the maturity, now you have responsibility, you have a mortgage, you have a whatever, and you can't try. So the time that you should be spending on figuring out what your calling is, you spend it wasting on drinking and right. So it's like youth is wasted on the young. So small businesses, you're right, there's no bureaucracy. So they can just try shit. They can do anything. They also don't have any money. So like we were talking about last week, if I'm advising a young business and they were to say, should we be spending money on brand equity, just storytelling, or should we be spending money on direct response where every dollar we spend, we need to make $1 back? I'd say direct response, every dollar you spend, you need to make $1 back. Don't take risks. Just do what Olipop's doing, because then it's more likely to work. When you get bigger, you have money, you have like extra budget. So not every dollar needs to bring in $1 and you can afford to try things. But ironically, when you get that big, you have bureaucracy and all these decision makers and people that are scared. And so that's you. So you don't take risk. So no one's taking risk.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about a few brands you think are really creating awesome content and why? Who does it really well?
I don't know. No examples come to mind, and I don't want to like put down a flag and say a certain brand is. I think just the type of brand would be these brands I keep mentioning, Olipop and Jot and Super Coffee. Like when you're spending enough on Facebook ads, like if you're spending $500 a month, you better hope that every one of those dollars goes to an ad that's working, so you make your money back. Those brands I just mentioned, some of them are spending $100,000 a month, and so if they take $5,000 of that or $10,000, 10% of it as complete experiment money, just to try crazy shit, just to try new shit. And they know that some of it's gonna fucking suck and some of it might be awesome, then they win, because even if only 1 or 2 of those ads does really awesome, they've discovered the new aesthetic, the new thing people want, the new way to speak, the new whatever, and they can be innovators. So the more you're spending, the more you carve out room for yourself to experiment. The more you experiment, the higher the likelihood that you hit gold. So the brands that are doing the best are usually the brands that can afford to take risks.
I see. So, for example, I have my brand. As you know, Shelly is very small. I know that you talk a lot about Facebook ads, and I haven't tried it yet because, of course, I want to save my money also, creating whatever content I can right now with limited means. When do you think brands should start paying for ads? Is there a value from the very beginning, or does it come a little later?
It depends on your price point, and it depends on your product, and it depends on your gross margin. So do you mind using you as an example?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So I actually don't know that much about your brand. The pieces are fairly expensive, right? They're what, $200-$300? Okay.
Yeah, more. Like it's a luxury brand, so they're starting around like 200-300 up to, I don't know, 8-9, something like that.
So I have no problem admitting I've spent $500 on a piece of clothing before, because I, like you, I'm not nearly at your level of understanding or appreciating fashion, but I appreciate it more than most of my friends maybe.
But you appreciate quality, like those are like things to understand.
But that's a lot for a piece of clothing for like an everyday person. So already you're speaking to a very niche audience on Facebook. It's not something that will have wide appeal. Facebook ads tend to work really well, or work well quickly, for products that are impulse purchases, $100 or less, $50 or less, where it's like, I've seen a few ads. This isn't going to like be the difference between me paying rent or not this month. If I buy a $500 piece of clothing, I'm thinking about my rent. If I spend $50 on like a pair of cheap sunglasses or whatever the fuck you buy for $50, protein powder or some shit, I'm not really thinking about my rent. I'm thinking about like, maybe I shouldn't go out for cocktails tonight, or maybe I'll save money, but right. So
Yeah.
impulse purchases, tend to work well. Your margins matter, which in your business, a luxury product like yours has amazing margins. So that would be a vote for trying.
Yeah.
I work with some food and beverage brands that have 70% margins, and I work with brands that have 20% margins. So they sell for barely more than it costs them to make.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how big your margin is, you have more money to play with for a Facebook acquisition. So let's say a $500 piece that you guys make costs you $100 to make.
Yeah.
I'm making that up. Now you have $400 to acquire a customer for it to still be a profitable acquisition. And that's quite a lot of money, to play with. You can reach a lot of people and run a lot of ads. If you told me that piece, once you count your time and CJ's time, cost $450 to make, now we have such a little amount to play with, it's never going to work. Like we'd have to,
I'm curious to also about the target demographic. If people who buy luxury, like you said, I think it's a very conscious purchase that comes with a lot of research, and I'm not sure it's something that could work with the Facebook ad or Instagram ad marketing, just because is people buy really, when they buy luxury, they buy the story that comes with it. They buy the story of the designer, the story of the brand, and all these things I think are very hard to condense into a 1-minute video.
Well, they also care, Misa, where they hear about it. So the kind of people that want to buy your product, and I'm just bullshitting right now, but you tell me if I'm wrong. They are very hip, very cool, very in the know. They know like the coolest, like what I would think are the coolest brands. Your customer would laugh at me. They'd be like, that was so like 3 seasons ago. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So if you're that kind of person where you really like, you really want to be in the know.
Yeah.
Facebook ads, that's a fucking joke. That would be like someone who's really into music being like, Shopify recommended this song to me. Like, that's embarrassing.
Exactly. I would go to Vogue. I would go to WWD. I would go to these magazines that are specialized in, high fashion, luxury fashion, and that really give this stamp of quality.
So that's why I mentioned before the customer journey. So you look at where this customer, here, let's just get really nerdy for a second. Ready? Just so you know, I'm not making shit up. Mckinsey loyalty loop. So this is called the Mckinsey loyalty loop. And for those that are just listening, this is going to be boring, but basically you see this star here, the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
The trigger is a need. So like, my car broke down, I need to buy a new one, or I ran out of toilet paper, I need to buy more. Or I just don't like what's in my closet. I want something new, or like it's a new season. I want to like freshen my wardrobe. I want to buy some new pieces. That's the trigger. Now you have your initial consideration set. So for toilet paper, you probably have a type that you buy that you just like, right? Maybe you choose between 2 or 3, probably you just have one. And that's what this loyalty loop is. So you have a trigger, ran out of toilet paper. You go right into your consideration set. You're like, I could get Scott or Charmin. And then there's a loyalty loop where it's like, I always get Scott. So you don't spend any time thinking about it. You just fucking buy Scott. Moment of purchase. Then you have post-purchase experience, which is like, do I like this or not? And then you run out again and you stay in this lower loop. You see that?
Yeah.
For larger purchases in particular, my car broke down. You have a consideration set, which is like, There's these three. I like Jeep. I like, Land Rover, and I like whatever, Volvo. But then you have this thing called the active evaluation, information gathering, shopping, just like, and this is really where you want to advertise, is like
Yeah.
when people are thinking about, okay, they have this trigger, spring's coming, I want to add a few pieces to my spring collection, to my wardrobe for the spring. Where are they actively evaluating and information gathering? And like, this is what we were just talking about. Like, is your consumer like looking at fashionistas on Instagram? Probably not, because that's sort of like everyman sort of vanilla bullshit. They're looking at like Paper Magazine and da da da, and they're over here and they're talking to their hip friends and they're smoking cigarettes, and right, it's all very cool. And so if you spent time advertising on a famous TV channel or running Facebook ads, or that's not where your customer is doing their active evaluation. So you're wasting your marketing dollars. And that's why it's important to meet people where they are. Then they make a purchase. Then they have a post-purchase experience. Was that cool or not? Did I feel cool wearing it? Was that enjoyable? And then the next time they have a trigger, your goal is to get them in the loyalty loop where they just look to you for awesome shit every season. If not, then you have to win them back in the active evaluation when they're going back out there and being like, maybe I'll buy a piece from this company or this one or this one. Does that make sense?
It totally does. I think it's very useful. Let me sorry, just get this. Is there, I mean, you explained a little bit about this. I think that my last question on this topic was, what's a step-by-step way to create a good content marketing strategy? I know you said, study your customer, know where they are. um, is there anything else that you need to know prior to creating the content that you will share on social media or on your website or elsewhere?
Yeah, man, I guess it comes back to the very first point you made, or the first question you asked about brand equity or direct response. Like, you have to decide if you're going to tell a story and not care about the marketing ramifications. You just want to tell the story, or is every piece of content you make in service of making a sale? If every piece of content is in service of making a sale, you want to make it, you want to run an ad, you want to test to see if it worked or not, and then you want to make more content. And the idea is to make content that converts and not make content that doesn't convert. And you basically just let the numbers speak. Did it work or didn't it? And that's what determines if you make content. It's not if you like it. It's not if your friends like it. It's literally just, does it fucking sell product? Yes or no? And that determines what kind of content, where you post it, everything. It's just completely, this is what we talked about, bottom down, like letting the people decide. Or you can be the kind of brand where you're like, I'm creating an editorial voice and I'm okay making an investment in just knowing what I want to say, saying it loudly and proudly for quite some time, and knowing that the right people over time will find me. And
Is it the Steve Jobs way, would you
kind of,
say?
yeah. It's like, and for your type of brand where it's like, this is we are presenting ourselves as tastemakers. Like, this is cutting edge, bleeding edge fashion, where it's like, we're the implied value proposition of your company, as I understand it, is like, you get trends before they happen. You're almost making trends. You're like, you're right.
I think that the value proposition of my brand is we are not sustainable, and our products live beyond trends. They're highly versatile, and each collection will work well with the previous one, with the next one, in order to really create a complete wardrobe. And the second selling point is we are slow fashion. So the whole content is also teach people again to wait and to be excited for something. which is hard because it's like the complete opposite of fast fashion, where you buy, you can like same day delivery, you go to a store, everything is there. And to me, it's about, you know, recreating this relationship between people and the ones who create their clothing, and how they can get excited about it, you
Yeah.
know?
So I think that's really powerful and lends itself more to you just being you, and people slowly but surely buying into that, and you finding your people. And that's one
Yeah.
way of building a brand. It's not fast. It often requires an investment of time, of money, and of
Mhm.
belief in self at the beginning. If you don't really
Yeah.
believe that what you're doing is right and like you're proud of it, the slowness of the build will fuck with your head. Am I or the others crazy? I think we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
You know,
Totally.
the faster way to build a company is to put a bunch of shit out there, see what people respond to, do more of that, see what people respond to, do more of that, and build and build and build that way. And you can build very quickly and responsively to your customers and let them reverse engineer your company and just service them. Just like Silicon Valley is obsessed with solving a problem. What is the problem? How can I fix the problem? And if you just let your customers tell you exactly what the problem is, exactly what they need, and you just make that, then you win. But in your case, you're creating a solution. You don't even know what the problem is yet. You're just
I
creating.
mean, I think it might be because the problem is so big, so generic, that maybe sometimes people cannot directly identify to it, because environment, we all understand that it is a big problem, but also it's so much in our face, and it doesn't like, you can feel it like, really, it's not tangible in your daily life. You can ignore it, you know, you can consume as much shit as you want, you can pollute, and it won't really make a difference in your life if you keep doing that. But there's a lot of people who understand the greater good, who understand their impact on the community, and that's what I'm, you know, betting on. It's the sense of, I'm not just doing this for myself, I'm doing this for my generation, the generation after me, you know?
Yeah. But I think because you're not, it's not like you're sitting there with a pen and
So it is a
paper interviewing people and saying like, tell me exactly what it is that you're looking like. I think if you interviewed 100 people or 1,000 people and figured out exactly what they look for in fashion and so on, you wouldn't want to make what they said, right? Like what they like, what they think is cool isn't inspiring to you and CJ, and you want to make something that you believe in, you think is cool, you think is profound, you think is different, right?
It depends who are the 100 people. I mean, in my community, my group of friends, the people that I identify to, if I ask them, I'm pretty sure that what they would answer, and I mean, those are conversations that I'm having with them. And their answer is like, it's something that is similar to what Shell is. It's just that we took it to another level, you know, on top of trying to answer what they like, exactly what they want, what they need. We add another layer of how can we do more.
Yeah, so I think then you're doing the right thing, which is who is my target customer? And you get the right 100 people, like you say, and you
Yeah.
ask them and you learn from them and you make something that they would like. And then once you've made the thing that you think they'll like, you need to tell them, the 100 people, and other people like that 100 people, like another 100 people just like them. And then the question is, where are those people?
Mm-hmm.
And for some brands, the answer is like, they're just scrolling through Instagram. So like run an Instagram ad because that's where they are. For you, the second 100 people might be flipping through a Vogue magazine right now. It's Sunday morning. It's 10 a.m.
Yeah.
They woke up. They're having their coffee. They're reading, you know, a Kinfolk magazine, and they're looking at some shit. And that's where they are. So you need to be there. So as soon as you solve the problem, you need to tell people, hey guys, you seem like the kind of person that has this problem. I've gone ahead and solved it. I just wanted to let you know. But if you let them know in the wrong place, they're either not there or not in a buying mindset while they're there. So you need to reach them at the right moment when they, right? Like I could
Yeah.
I could be a bathing suit. Maybe this is not the best analogy because so forgive me, all the legal disclaimers. I could be like a bathing suit vendor right now, and it's February and it just snowed. And I could be like, hey, Mizel, like, just by the way, like, I've made really awesome, trendy bathing suits. And you're like, not really where I'm at right now, dude. Like, I'm kind of thinking about keeping warm and da-da-da. But if I'm in July and like you and CJ are about to go to the beach, that exact same product might hit you right. So it can be about timing. It can be about where, it can be about how. So
Yeah.
I think it's just understanding the problem you're solving, making a product to solve it. And then once you think you have, telling the right people in the right places.